It's another Henry brand concoction. Let's take a look at Galaxy Mewtwo. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. We are live here on twitch.tv/thesableyes. If you'd like to go over to Twitch and follow us there, that would be great. I'm here today to talk about Galaxy Mewtwo with its creator, the one and only world champion Henry Brand. How are we doing, Henry?
Very good, thanks, Mitch. Just coming off a fresh Conquest victory against the Sableyes YouTube channel, you might know.
Oh, jeez, and if you've been watching over the last couple of days on the channel, then those videos will be up there so you can watch us lose in real time. We are also here with my partner in crime for that particular Conquest, Jordan. How's it going, Jordan?
Not too bad. It was pretty exciting couple of games. We did actually get to see this Galaxy Mewtwo deck firsthand destroying us in, I believe, the only game that it saw play. It was the victor in that match.
Yep, just crushed us straight away. So yes, it's another one of Henry's takes on this Perfection Mewtwo card. Obviously, the card that he won Worlds with had some pretty big success along the way. So there's a whole bunch of new cards here, Henry, that we haven't seen in things like Ultimate Mewtwo, which you've also played. Just walk us through the interesting bits for me.
Okay, so I want to preface this with this is a list that everyone is seeing before a tournament. Not that it's going to be played for a tournament, but most of the lists you'll see, they'll kind of get perfected and worked on, and then you'll see it after the fact. Whereas this
when
one,
it's been successful.
Yeah, and this one, I guess, the main difference is now that there's no tournaments, no majors, I can kind of share the lists, like the ideas as I have them, and then work on them, like which I've been doing on my stream. I've been working on it with people. I think it's an interesting insight to the process. But the main things that this deck has going on for the moment is when you play Ultimate Mewtwo, for example, you're very fixed into your game plan, and of course you're committed to using one of two GX attacks. You have to use Altered Creation or you have to use Soul Burst, and once you do that, I guess the tricky part for some people is with Soul Burst you have to see the rest of the game out, and you have to plan the whole game accordingly. So you have to attach your energy in the right spots and all of that. But to me, that's very restrictive, I find it. So you play the game and you have to commit to that. And if you miss at any point in that game plan, you're most likely going to lose. Which, whilst it has its merits, of course, if you miss the turn 1 Soul Burst as well, you're most likely going to lose that game. And the difference with this is that your GX attack slot is freed up. And so the idea is that there's a lot of kind of cheap energy attacks. There's Chuck Away from Raticate, there's Massive Bloom from Vileplume, Linear Attack, and of course, the Doom Count GX. So the point of this is that it lets you play a little bit differently in each matchup. So you can play aggressively if they have a weak start. You can take out their threat straight away with Doom Count. You can kind of set up some threats. You can play tanky against Dragapult or Zacian with Sanctuary GX, where you move all damage from all of your board onto your opponent's active. So if you set things up right against Dragapult, you can one-shot them and heal your entire board. You're just able to play. Yeah, you're able to play a little bit differently based on each kind of scenario that you get presented.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. The fact that there's a lot more flexibility in this list is a massive deal. Now, there's a lot of cards that we've seen in Mewtwo lists before, things like the Vileplume-GX with Massive Bloom, things like the Reshiram. Obviously, the ADP is still here because Altered Creation, if you haven't seen it before, is a pretty good GX attack. And we also have Garchomp and Giratina with Calamitous Slash, which actually combos quite nicely with the two Zigzagoon that are in the deck. You can set up a bit of damage with those and things like Scoop Up Net to be able to set up big knockouts with Calamitous Slash at some point in the game. And it means that you've kind of got this flexibility to, to do pretty much whatever you like with it. And you can set up situations where you're almost guaranteed to win games just because you've got so many options. Now, Jordan, when we were playing against this deck, we really obviously struggled with that flexibility. What's your favourite part about it, Jordan? What do you like?
There's actually a few things that stand out to me, and one of the biggest things that I really like is actually the two different Jirachis that this deck is playing. First, we'll talk about the Jirachi-GX, because not only is this, obviously it's a very important card versus the brand new Dragapult VMAX deck, which is seeing a bit of play at the moment, and unlike in previous Psychic-type matchups, usually you see Psychic decks, Jirachi will remove the weakness from both of them, but Jirachi actually does not affect the weakness on Dragapult. It's not a factor, so it's only benefiting you, obviously. And the most important thing about this card, though, that we haven't really seen before is, Henry, you've actually been taking a bit more of a focus on Star Search than we've seen ever before in the past. Is that right?
Yeah, so now to kind of like, I guess, get the origin of the deck, I think I talked to Jordan maybe in a message. I wanted to try Mewtwo with these kind of attackers, but with Flapple.
Yeah,
however,
Flapple's
Flapple
cool.
takes a lot of deck space, and it's very bad against Dragapult because of the 40 HP on Applin. So I've had to adapt a little bit and gone for the Zigzagoon Scoop Up Net, but the Star Search is one way to get around, I guess, the manual attachment issue that you have, and it has another few nice things as well. With Horror Energy now, Horror Energy is one of the big parts of this deck. It sets up all your maths, it sets up Doom Count, Calamitous, any just KOs even, and Star Search lets you search that out, which is really good. So even if you can't find it, you can just Star Search. And Star Search also mitigates, I guess, the issue of going second. It gets an extra energy attachment. And with Horror Energy, you don't really need to set up the damage, because if they hit into you, they're going to take that. It also lets you set up those higher energy attacks like Calamitous and Sanctuary. One of the game plans I went for against you guys was that I wanted to Star Search and then Calamitous Slash, and then of course Doom Count only takes 1 energy, so even if that gets knocked out, you can just attach 1 energy and a Doom Count. And of course the Star Search also lets you get away from get out of the damage that you would take from taking Rainbow as an attachment. Yeah, it's really, really flexible. It allows you to do a lot of stuff. Now, there's one Jirachi with Stellar Wish in this list, and that is a Count Jordan that I don't think anyone has really played before. Like, you either play 4 or sometimes 3 if you're feeling risky, or you don't play any at all. Why the one copy of Jirachi? Okay, so I started at 2, and I started with a skateboard, because of course it's a pivot, and with Scoop Up Net, it's nice to kind of loop through them. But the thing is that with this deck, you actually don't, like, it's not like a Zacian deck or a Pika deck where you need Electro Power, you need these items that you actually use, Metal Saucer. Whereas this, like, all you really need is, I guess, to discard your Pokemon. And so because of that, a Mewtwo deck is always going to naturally favor a Dedenne type engine because of the high counts of Cherish Ball and Quick Ball. Because of that, there's also so many basic Pokemon in the deck that even if you played a high count of Jirachi, your chances of opening it is really low. Of course, you would draw into it more often, but I've chosen to just play 1 at least for now. I'm liking the 1 because it's nice stamp protection. So, of course, any deck without Jirachi can struggle with stamp. And so, of course, if you get KO'd and stamped, you then just promote Jirachi and you use it. Of course, with Force Switch and Force Scoop Up Net as well, it lets you sometimes use it as a consistency card. So, for now, I'm liking it. Yeah, it's pretty nifty, that 1 count there. Now, obviously, the Pokemon in this list, there's so many different options. We've already talked about lots of them in our Ultimate Mewtwo coverage in the past, which you can go and check out on the channel if you are interested. So instead, we'll move down into the items, supporters, and energy. Now, we've already talked about Horror Energy, but there's some interesting counts here. Things like 2 Rainbow, 1 Unit, 4 Aurora. They're kind of interesting choices, I guess. Obviously, the Unit Energy, very, very good to be able to attach, like, for a Rainbow without necessarily getting that damage counter on there, but I'm not the one who made the deck. Henry, is there a specific reason we've gone for this 4-3-2-1 line of energy? I mean, it's got a nice pad to it. It does. It seems nice, 4-3-2-1. For now, I've gone for this. Attaching Rainbow feels really bad for a lot of reasons, so there's a lot of scenarios. One scenario, actually I think there's 3, so there's 3 scenarios. 1 is against Dragapult. If you don't have Jirachi down, what you can do is put Stealthy Hood on your Mewtwo so that they can't actually knock you out in 1 hit, letting you either Sanctuary or Outrage for a lot of damage. And of course, Rainbow will mess with that. Rainbow also means that Pika can Tag Bolt you with 2 Electro Power. And of course, against Zacian as well, something weird they can do is that they can hit you for 230, and if you've attached a Rainbow and you can't heal that, they can then knock you out with Slap, which isn't always relevant, but it is something that can pop up. Yes. And so because of that, I felt that this color unit seems the most likely. It's the most, I guess, important because it only messes with a few things. It messes with Doom Count. It's 1 less Doom Count energy, but that's only 1 energy, so it's okay. Messes with Sanctuary, but again, you can Star Search out your energy, so you get to pick. And the only other thing it messes with is the the Calamitous Slash, and that only affects it when you have 2 Horror, so it didn't feel like too much of an issue, and for now I like the kind of compromise. Yeah, it does seem to kind of cover all the bases that we need to cover. Again, another interesting choice in the list is its supporter line. Now, you're used to seeing decks that are like 4 Research, 3 or 4 Marnie, and then a couple of Boss, but there's 1 Guzmahala, 1 Malolana, and 1 Marnie in this deck. And for a deck that doesn't really have ways to kind of
Well, we've got the Eldegoss to recycle the supporters, but for decks that doesn't, for a deck that doesn't have a lot of Jirachis to search those supporters out, it's a very interesting choice. Obviously, there is the 2 copies of Tag Call to grab Guzmahala and Mallow. Talk us through that one.
So the Tag Call engine is really nice. A 3rd Tag Call would never be bad. However, I do kind of like a package just in there, and for now we've settled just for 2. The Guzmahala is really nice. It gets you the Stealthy Hood, it gets you to pick your energy as well, and of course it gets Chaotic Swell. A lot of the times you just want your energy and you'd rather not, I guess, Dead Change or research for it, so just being able to pick the energy is nice. I also used to play Counter Gain, which I'm still not opposed to, but for now I've gone for 2 Stealthy Hood because of how important it is against probably ADP and especially Dragapult.
Yeah.
But it lets you search out those kind of tech tool cards if you want to play them. The Malolana is really good in like pretty much every matchup. You can get away with a Malolana. And the 1 Marnie, it used to be 2. I don't really like Marnie that much as a draw supporter, but since I can't fit Stamp, at least for now, it kind of feels nice to be able to Marnie. It also prevents, I guess, your opponent building too much up. So a little bit of hand disruption is nice to force them to play into Horror Energy, especially. I would like, of course, like more consistency. I think that's one of the rooms for improvement potentially in the deck, but in a deck like this, you can really play any card you want, and so it makes it very difficult to decide exactly what to play.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you could choose. Sorry, Jordan, I cut you off there.
I was just going to say, I did actually have a question about one other supporter in the deck that we only touched on briefly. You're playing the 3 copies of Boss's Orders, whereas in previous lists we kind of saw like maybe 2 Boss, 1 Great Catcher. I guess that's more like what we're used to seeing a lot of other decks. Is there a reason that you chose that? You think that the Great Catcher doesn't really offer too much in this build and wanted to prioritize the 3 Boss's Orders?
It definitely, so the Great Catcher improves the Pika matchup, but
Yep.
I feel that in general we've switched away from GX Pokemon a little bit more, and so the Great Catcher only really feels live in games where they have to Dead-A and where or Pika. And so the thing with that is that I'm not playing Stamp or heavy Marnie count, so it feels unlikely that they're going to be forced to use Dedenne.
Right.
And so it seems unlikely for me to get that much use out of Great Catcher. Additionally, the earlier you use Boss, the earlier you can use Eldegoss to get it. So that's always nice. And also, of course, sometimes you can, like, I guess, lack in the ability to actually get enough cards in hand to Great Catcher, use Aurora, like anything like that.
Yeah.
And also the other big thing as well. Yeah, the other big thing as well is that often you want to end the game against like maybe Zacian or something. If you take, so against Zacian, let's say you take a single prize knockout turn 1 on a Jirachi or something, then you go through 2 Zacian and they'll use a 3rd and you may not be able to get through the 3rd. And so having a boss to kind of KO Jirachi with, say, Chuck Away or something like that is pretty good.
It does
Yep,
seem
solid.
pretty solid indeed. So we won't spend too much time speaking through this deck list anymore because it's one of those things with Mewtwo, you can talk about this deck for infinity amount of time because, like you said, Henry, you can put pretty much anything that you want in there. Thanks very much for sharing the list with us, mate. It's always good to see your new creations up on the channel, and what we might do in our video, which we are currently in, is go and see ourselves play a bit of a game with it. So thanks, Henry, for talking through it.
No worries.
And we'll see how that game goes. So I have been left on my own for some gameplay, but that's okay. I don't want Henry talking over my shoulder all the time, telling me how poorly I'm doing. One of the things that we do need to remember when we're playing with Galaxy Mewtwo is that this deck is really very brain intensive. You need to be focused a lot of the time. This game is one that I pre-recorded, so after we finished streaming our Conquest, I jumped on and played a couple of games with it, and this is one that we managed to get. We'll see whether or not it shows off how this deck works on out. Now, we got a couple of bad starts there. The Zigzagoon and the Reshizard both as options. I opted to put the Zigzagoon down. Again, that could be a mistake before the first card has even been drawn here. But I like the idea. We've got the Scoop Up Net, we've got Quick Ball and Cherish Ball in hand. So we should be able to find ourselves a Mewtwo as well as some other stuff to get us going here. So I'm pretty happy with that. And we do actually find the second Zigzagoon straight off of the top. So We've got plenty of them. Now it's just a matter of trying to get ourselves across the line here with a Dragapult matchup with Galaxy Mew. We want to make sure that we're grabbing the Jirachi-GX ASAP. Luckily, we're going second here. We can discard the Reshizard, grab the Jirachi, and we don't need to go for Dedenne. Instead, we can research or Marnie. We can play down the second Zigzagoon, and we can use the Scoop Up Net to pick up the active Zigzagoon before we research, so that we have access to an attack. This turn, I'd really like to see a Star Search if we could, just picking the Zigzagoon up from the active, and we'll play it down, get another couple of damage counters onto that Dragapult. If we can get for the Star Search attack off, that would be excellent. I'd really like to see it with a Horror Energy as well, because that way that Dragapult, if it chooses to hit into us, will be taking 20 damage, which will put it in range of being knocked out by a Yveltal-GX attack. That Doom Count is a card that is definitely worth grabbing here. There's probably an argument to keeping it for later, just because we don't need to play any of these cards now. This is a symptom of a player who has not played this deck before, just kind of fumbling my way through the game plan here. Mallow and Lana is going to be a really good supporter in a Dragapult matchup. Again, we don't need to grab it now, but I've got it, so that's fine. We'll attach the Aurora Energy and then discard the Yveltal, and that will allow us to attack with Yveltal's first attack, which will do 20 damage to our Dragapult, and then if our opponent chooses to evolve it, it will be within range of Doom Count. Now, the argument could also be here for a Star Search, which I like. We can grab ourselves a Horror Energy. It's actually better because if our opponent does choose to attack into us, like I said, they'll take that 20 damage, and we will be able to use Doom Count anyway. So I think that's probably a better play. Past Mitch knows what's going on. Current Mitch doesn't necessarily. And that Dragapult, that's a big evolution here. If they do attack into this Mewtwo, then we will be able to Doom Count them next turn. So we'll see. They are probably going to go looking for something like a Power Plant here, but the Chaotic Swell has come down early, which is good. It means that we aren't likely to see that Power Plant come down just yet. And if it did, that would be terrible. It would mean that the Jirachi-GX's ability would be off, and this Mewtwo would be all but knocked out. And this Giratina coming down is a really bad thing for us. They actually choose to get rid of the Aurora there, which is an interesting choice. Instead, leaving us with the Horror. They're obviously happy to take the 20, and I'm happy to let them have it. We've got the Rainbow Energy in our hands, so if they do choose to attack us, then we've still got the option for Yveltal-GX. That Dedenne coming down now. They'll draw 6 fresh cards, and we'll see what they grab. Yeah, so Galaxy Mewtwo is a really exciting list. It can do a lot of stuff, and unlike Ultimate Mewtwo, which is a little bit linear once you've chosen your direction, Galaxy Mewtwo is a lot more flexible. So there is a lot of stuff that can be done. There's that Power Plant. They couldn't replace the Chaotic Swell, and now they are going for a Cynthia. So that suggests to me that they can't replace it, even if they did have a Stadium in hand. They can't get rid of the Chaotic Swell beforehand, so they may as well just go for it here, and that's fair enough. But in doing so, we are actually going to be able to take a knockout on the active Dragapult. We can also use Mallow and Lana here to get ourselves all but 20 of that damage healed off. So this is a really, really good spot for us to be in. They're choosing 50 damage onto the Jirachi, and fair enough, they want to knock that one out pretty quickly. And we actually are in a really good spot here. Now, it's just a matter of orders here. What are we actually going to do in what order? Now, I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm not a perfect player when it comes to this kind of stuff. So if you see a better route of play, then please let us know in the comments down below. I think we're going to be Mallow and Lana-ing away one or two of these Pokemon that we've got in our hand, attaching the Rainbow, and then just switching wherever it is. We can hold the Quick Ball in our hand for next turn. We can just get rid of these 2 Pokemon, and then we'll just go into like a Zigzagoon or something, and then switch back in. We don't necessarily need to do anything here. There's a temptation to Quick Ball for a Dedenne, but we are taking 3 prizes with Doom Count, so I'm happy for it. Whereabouts is it? It's the second from the top. Probably should have spotted that. And that's how we deal with Dragapults. We just get rid of them straight away, and we actually managed to find another Chaotic Swell off of the prizes, which is fantastic news for us. It's a bit of a shame that we lost one of those energy early, but I'm happy with a GX attack for 3 prizes on the on the second turn of the game for us. And now we've got Boss's Orders, Quick Ball. We've got a lot of options here. The Aurora Energy will obviously be able to get us an attack for 3 energy, which I'm looking forward to. We'll see what our opponent goes for. They're switching here. They might choose to switch into just something, something for fodder. They're getting the Zigzagoon here. We've actually come into a Professor's Research as well, so this is very, very interesting. I think the key for us is putting some damage counters onto that Dragapult. At some point, they're going to need to evolve. They're going to need to go for the the VMAX, sorry. So we need to get that within range of a knockout. I'm going to put this Chaotic Swirl down. I think that's going to stop our opponent from doing anything really. And I think the best thing for us to do is just a Quick Ball for a Pokemon that we don't necessarily need. We could grab the Xerneas, maybe another Mewtwo, although that is a bit of a mistake putting that down, because now we don't get to use the Aurora Energy. Probably should have gone for something a little different there. That's okay, we've got the Stealthy Hood, which we can chuck down. We'll put it on this Mewtwo and Mew, so that if this first Mewtwo does get knocked out, then we don't get knocked out by something silly like Zigzagoon from our opponent. We've got a Horror Energy in hand. It's not great on our active. We actually need multiple Rainbow Energies on the active to attack with anything realistically. So the Horror goes to the bench. We're in a pretty good spot in that we can just use Chuck Away from Raticate to take this knockout. There's no resistance or anything like that. We could switch. We could just attack with the active Mewtwo. We could also just choose to go for the linear attack as well onto the Dragapult. We went for the switch in the end. I actually think that's a mistake in hindsight. Probably keep the Mewtwo with 2 energy in the active, because now we need 2 things to get our attack off with Garchomp Giratina next turn. So yeah, we're in a pretty strong spot. I mean, we need an extra energy, but we've got Dedenne, we've got Guzmahala if we want to use that as well. If they do choose to put that VMAX into the active, then we have an opportunity. Obviously, with 160 plus 80, 240 plus 40 is 280, even with an extra 20 damage from the Horror Energy, we won't be within range of a one-shot with that Calamitous Slash just yet. But it all does depend on what our opponent does, and at the moment, they're really struggling to find cards that they're looking for. I think they got a Marnie off of that Jirachi, so there's an attachment and the Marnie, so we'll see whether they can get their attack off here. You'd think that if they can't, that would just be the end of the game, because if we're allowed to get one more linear attack off, I think that will probably be it. We'll be able to Calamitous Slash very easily. Let's see here. It looks like our opponent is just passing. So yeah, we are in a very, very strong spot. We can attach either the Unit Energy or the Horror Energy to the active, whichever one. I think that putting that on the bench is, again, a bit of an error, but that's okay. We've got pretty much all that we need to do. We need all that we need to have in our hand. We can just Mewtwo and Mew. We can linear attack the Dragapult V, and that will probably put our opponent in a position where there's nothing much that they can do. I mean, if we had have chucked, in hindsight, we put the Horror Energy on the active and then chuck away, then I think we put ourselves in a position where all we need is just an energy from our deck, no matter what our opponent does. So it's a bit of a misplay there, but I think it's still definitely worth taking a look back at the games that you've played in the past and saying, yeah, I probably could have done that a little bit better. Got a couple of turns here that haven't been super optimal, but I feel like we're in a really strong spot now, because even if they do attack, we have the switch, we have the Calamitous Slash, so we will be able to get this one done. You have a good deck from your opponent, there's the concession. So hey, there's nothing much our opponent could do. Thank you everyone for coming along to check out this one, and thanks again to Henry, not only for his super exciting Mewtwo list, but also for the Conquest series that we just finished playing on the channel. If you haven't seen it, then go back and take a look. It is definitely a good one. Apart from that, we'll end it there. Thank you very much for coming along. If you want to subscribe, click the button that's just here. There's some videos to watch as well as a playlist for more Rebel Clash content. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at @Sableyes_YT. And apart from that, we'll see you next time from the Sableyes.